Oh, the world sure feels noisy and a little unmoored. Same power structures and playbooks, different decade, but same outcomes. What? We need to change the game. But Women Advancing isn't about fixing women. We're busy reorienting leadership for the world we're living in and the one ahead. I'm your host, Kate Byrne. Each week, I talk with the women shaping what's next. Join us as we reset the compass on Women Advancing. Hey, everybody. It's your host, Kate Byrne with Women Advancing. Well, today's guest took a personal pain point and made it her business, literally, to fix it. My guest is CEO and founder of Poppy Flowers, Cameron Hardesty, who was busy planning her own wedding flowers. We know what a nightmare that can be. When she realized something didn't add up, there was unclear pricing, really rigid minimums, manual workflows, and honestly, an experience that for everybody involved, be it the couples, the designers, the growers, wasn't working for anybody. Because let's face it, the wedding industry is built on beauty on the outset, but behind the scenes, it's really seriously anything but. It's downright ugly. So instead of accepting it, she took the situation and built a company out of the market gap she knew all too personally. So Poppy is a company that's rethinking floral sourcing, pricing, logistics, the whole thing designed to using technology, transparency, and deep customer empathy. As a result, customers get ease of mind, wallet, and beauty on one of the most important days of their lives. Today, we're going to talk about what it took to really modernize a legacy business, redesign supply chains, blending tech and craft, building teams with culture, and frankly, dealing with leading a venture-backed company while navigating motherhood and a few other life's big transitions. Yeah, it's not easy, but Kim makes it so. This is a conversation about building businesses that sure change markets, but doing it on your own term. Indeed, a thing of beauty. Stay to the end for KB Takeaways. Let's dive in. Women Advancing listeners, welcome to yet another fabulous conversation with such a badass, smart, soon-to-be mama of three, CEO and founder, Cameron Hardesty of Poppy Flowers. Cameron, hey, thank you so much for making the time, especially now, 2 weeks away?
Yeah, 38 weeks pregnant today. Thanks for having me, Kate.
My pleasure. And everyone, the reason why I'm focusing on that might seem a little like, a little over the line. The reason why is, look how strong we are. I mean, seriously. And Cameron has just been amazing to watch find a gap and find this market and just create this massive market. But I'll let her talk a little bit about this notion of, the gap that became a business.
It's so appropriate that you brought up the pregnancy because more than half of our team are working moms, and the moms are making it happen at Poppy.
Yeah, they are. And there's a lot of really interesting and exciting new efforts to support moms. And we at Women Advancing are actually going to be sponsoring a screening of a movie of a whole mom movement, but that's separate thing altogether. I'll tell you offline.
Please.
All right. But so let's look at this whole notion of, the gap, and then it became this business. You've often said that what inspired Poppy was planning your own wedding flowers and realizing, oh my God, this is both expensive and so opaque. I just went through this with my daughter, and we ended up doing our own thing.
Yep.
What was the exact moment when you connected those dots between personal frustration, like, hey, heck, I can totally make this a seriously scalable business?
It actually goes back even further than that. There were breadcrumbs along the way. So before I got engaged and we got married, I started working at Urban Stems, which is one of the actually Wirecutter just named them the top flower delivery service. So if you're looking for Mother's Day flowers, check out Urban Stems. But I was one of the first executives there. And I remember coming in and seeing our seed round deck and realizing we were pitching this entire industry as our opportunity, but we were not even addressing a really big chunk of it, the wedding and events category. And so even before I started, I came in hot with, we got to start doing weddings. This is a big opportunity because all of my friends were getting engaged and planning weddings. This was 2015, 2016. And florals were always a pain point for them. And now that I've been in the industry for 10 years, I understand why. Florals are like the last big ticket purchase you're making when you're planning your wedding. You've already spent 75% of your budget on other big ticket vendors.
Right.
And you get to florals and you think, how much could it be? $1,000, $2,000 for like, no. And if you're planning a wedding of a certain budget level,
Right.
you're going to get sized up. You're going to get sent proposals that are 10, 15, 20, $25,000. And there's a lot of sticker shock associated with that. So my friends were going through that at the time. And I remember there was a friend of a friend who paid me to just consult with her on what her flowers should cost. And I
Right.
thought, like, wow, people are really looking for
In
information
the dark. Yeah.
in the dark. And of course they are. It's the first time that you've ever spent this much money on flowers. It's probably the first time you planned a wedding. So I could see that there was an opportunity. I could see that on the customer side of this transaction, there was a lot of opacity, price confusion, sticker shock, and that it would be helpful to have like someone to navigate this. Also, before I got married and I was at Urban Stems, I was like one of the only flower people at the company. And I would go to floral design workshops to help improve my skills and like stay on top of trends. And every time I went to a floral design workshop, there was at least half a day dedicated to not how to be a designer or an artist, but how to run a business. And pricing and profit generation were the two biggest issues that
Huh.
floral designers had, and educating their customers about why they should be willing to spend as much as they're being asked to
That's
spend. And I just kept hearing the same issues over and over again with floral designers and realized, okay, well, customers are saying this is so expensive. Like, why? And floral designers are saying we're struggling to turn a profit and we don't know how to price our products and services. And it just sparked the idea of like, there's something broken here in between the two sides of this transaction. And so then when my husband and I got engaged, I, like every other bride, was trying to stick to a budget. And also, the wedding was being considered for Martha Stewart weddings, like real weddings. And so every little design decision that I made felt really important because I wanted it to be good enough for Martha Stewart weddings. And
wow.
I figured the highest leverage decor opportunity that I had was flowers because I did all the buying for urban stems. So I knew how to buy from farms, which saves 50 to 100% on COGS.
Yeah.
And so 100%, 75%. But so I started reaching out to these farms. I put together my plan, walked through the venue a couple times, put together the plan of what I wanted to create, built out what we call in the biz recipes. So whenever you have a
Mm.
centerpiece or a bouquet, you write a floral recipe, X many roses, X many ranunculus, so on and so
Yep.
on. All of that builds up to a purchase order. And so I was doing that work. And I'm getting to the moment where it all clicked. Doing that work. And I was gonna DIY it because I was like, "I'll just DIY it, it's fine, I know how to do flowers." Me and one other gal. I realized closer to the day that I had ordered basically 2 truck pallets worth of flowers, and it would have taken me and the other gal a whole week just to cut them and put them
Get
in
through
water.
that.
No, not enough throughput between the 2 of us, and so I reached out to that Martha Stewart weddings editor in a crisis, like, "Please put me in touch with any floral designers you know in Austin, Texas," which is where we're getting married.
Right.
And she connected me with a few, and when I brought those gals into the warehouse where we were putting everything together, and I had the flowers that I had bought from the farms, and they were executing on these designs I had written out in Excel weeks ago, I started running the numbers as I was walking around kind of, like, supervising everything and realized, okay, based on industry standard pricing, what we're doing here would cost me about $25,000 if I had gone with a florist.
Right.
And my actual costs, including flowers and labor for 5 designers, was about $7,000.
Yeah.
So I thought, wow, you could still make a healthy gross margin and save people $10,000.
Easily.
Yeah. And so that's where I realized, like, I think this might be the basis of what a business model could be to start
Right.
to bridge the gap between people who want really kind of a luxury floral experience, but they're not willing or able to spend $25,000 plus on their wedding flowers. It was
Right.
in the warehouse in Austin when it all
Nice. Way back when.
yeah.
Well, so, because, I know that's one of the things, your big value prop, right, is the transparent pricing and a way more efficient supply chain.
Yeah.
So, how did you approach like rethinking sourcing from farms and building a logistics model, which is all that unsexy stuff?
Yeah.
But I swear to you, what I have learned in past life, that's always where the magic is.
Yeah.
If you do that, it's like sticking with it till you figure that out. But especially in an industry, where you've got a bunch of, it's very manual workflows,
Yep.
it's old school, it's working with an abacus. I'm kidding. But so, how did you do that?
Well, that part actually felt like a cheat code because I had been doing that work for Urban Stems, and when I came to work at Urban Stems, we had one supplier. It was a wholesaler in Silver Spring, Maryland, and we were getting some discounts because of the volume that we were buying at, but we still had to pay a wholesaler markup. And I just started learning about the industry. The first book I read was Flower Confidential, which outlines the whole floral supply chain. And I realized, like, every time someone touches a flower, every time it stops at a warehouse, you're
Yeah.
adding cost. So if you can reduce the number of touches in between when the flower is cut and when
Ah,
it's delivered to the customer, then you're going to reduce your costs. And the more time that people spend in the United States handling the flowers versus in the countries where most of the flowers that we buy here are grown, it's the cost difference is astronomical. So, very early on, I realized you wanna buy as much as you can from Colombia and Ecuador, which is where
right.
85% of the flowers that are it's like bananas or coffee, like, there aren't
Right, right.
banana farms here, like, most flowers are grown in climates where they can be grown year-round. You wanna buy as much as you can from there and bypass wholesalers where possible. You can't always bypass wholesalers because there's a value to what they're doing. They're
Sure.
consolidating from lots of different countries and states and all over the place, but for the most part, most of what you need, you can buy from farms in Colombia and Ecuador. So I did that. I set that up. We started with a wholesaler at Urban Stems. By the time I left, we were buying from 15 vendors all over the world.
Wow.
And I built those relationships. I traveled to Ecuador. I had the best job. Like, I got to travel to Ecuador, Colombia, California, the Netherlands. It was so fun.
Oh, how fun.
And when I left Urban Stems, I was kinda burnt out, and I wasn't even sure I would start another flower company, but I
Right.
took the time off and realized this is my passion, it's my network, it's an industry I know really well. So that part was easy, knowing where to buy the flowers and how to buy them. I just kind of applied the same principles that I had learned and applied before.
Right, which is awesome to make it yours,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
is, I mean, think about it, everybody. That's your penultimate. How many times have we been in jobs that we absolutely love, but kind of gotta deal with some of these other people. And now you actually have the smarts and the wherewithal to be able to do it on your own. So one of the things I think that's been that I really like about Puppy is your use of digital tools. Like, you're in the mood boards. I'm a sucker for
Yeah.
for an Insta board. And so, like, with floral design and logistics, what was the most surprising, tension or even breakthrough when you're marrying this sort of tech-driven efficiency
Yeah.
with this deep, creative, hands-on product like flowers? Because once opposite ends of the it's like tech and hold and cold, and then
Yeah.
warm and luscious, floral.
Yeah, so I was the floral designer for some of my friends' wedding flowers, so I understood the process of how to do it with very little or just off the shelf tech products like, Pinterest and Google,
Yeah.
whatever. And Poppy's process is not that different. The difference is that we have a catalog of products that are pre-priced, pre-recipeed, pre-sourced. So we know when we're selling the product, how much
Yeah.
it's gonna cost us to fulfill it. That's the unlock because most florists are selling something they don't wanna put a lot of work into actually recipeing out the design until they know that it's been sold, so by the time that they're making a proposal to a customer, it's kind of like, here's a rough it's like really a price range that they're on,
Yeah.
and as a customer, you're having to agree to that, knowing that it may go up if you make changes. But as a florist, you're taking on risk too because you're locking in price on cost you're not gonna know for months. And the cost of flowers can fluctuate based on supply and demand and what's going on with the weather. So florists to like address that build in a buffer in their pricing, which inflates the price, not because they're greedy, because they're trying to protect the downside that's just baked into their business model. But because we buy from these farms and our volume is high and we can predict what our inventory is and we can forecast what we're going to buy in the future, we can lock in better pricing and know what our costs are going to be. So that's kind of the unlock for us is our team. We have a team of floral consultants that are all ex-floral designers that now work for Poppy full time. And they're really the lead designer for our couples. So they're working inside of our platform. But
Mm.
every couple who works with Poppy has a floral consultant that is their person who's like their floral designer and making sure their vision comes to life. But they're working within a like more defined universe of things that can possibly be sold, and their costs are known at the time they're quoting the prices, which lets us be way more accurate on pricing and offer better pricing.
Which is fantastic, and then it's also just huge trust,
Yeah.
right? Because you just feel so much more comfortable, and honestly, not that you're doing this, but I'm gonna be more likely if someone's gonna say, "I know you like this flower, but this could add just a little bit of, elegance for an
Yeah.
extra dollar per stem," right? So I think upselling could be perhaps even a greater opportunity, not that that's what your one would do, but if you did, I'd be more likely to go, "You know what? I could totally do that."
We actually our most successful floral consultants take the opposite approach. They're
Ah!
like, "What's your budget? Let me work with you," because almost every other florist you encounter is trying to upsell you and
Oh, okay.
tell you things you don't need.
See? I would never yeah.
But because we have the other, like, functional difference between our business and most, of our competitors who are small businesses is we have the capacity to deliver thousands of weddings every year.
Right,
And most florists are trying to maximize the dollar value of every single wedding they get because they're gonna max out at 50 weddings, and most people don't become floral designers to be flower factories, they wanna be artisans, and so they're
right,
trying to reduce the number of weddings rather than increase, and so the sort of mechanism of this industry is like when you enter the industry, you start low, then everyone's trying to just move up market as quickly as they can. And that leaves a lot of churn for our customer who wants to spend $4 or $5,000, but $4 or
right.
$5,000 just barely gets you in the door with most florists in the top 20 NFL cities, let's say.
True, yes.
So that's our sweet spot. And I think it's really refreshing and a differentiator for couples to work with any kind of wedding vendor that is like genuinely trying to stick to their budget.
So, on that end, obviously so culture and trust, huge, 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 and being successful, both obviously externally, but internally, because we all know external reflects what's going on inside behind. So, what's your philosophy on leadership when you're building these teams? Because it is so distributed and it's
Yeah.
such a high touch service business. To your point, you don't want to have a lot of churn.
Yeah. No, we see it in our NPS when we have floral consultants turnover and we want
Yeah,
to invest in the good people that we have and keep them with the company for a long time. I'm sure you've done strengths finders and I have too. Both my parents are IO psychologists. And so I've been in these like frameworks for a long time. Yeah.
fascinating.
But one of the strengths it's one of my top strengths and one that I like to look for, especially in sales, is competition.
Mm,
So drive, competition, intensity, just like a obsessiveness,
yep, a
I
hunger.
think is really important. And it's easy to measure a salesperson's performance. It's like the easiest thing to measure.
It's so talk about transparent. It
Yeah.
is obvious. You know.
Um, and you can tell when you've got a gunner on the team.
Yeah, true,
Um,
true.
I think I will say just the industry that we're drawing from for most of the jobs that exist in Poppy is the floral and wedding industry. And in my experience, by and large, people who get into that industry and stay in it for as long as it would take to be qualified to work at Poppy are really hardworking. You have to be. to run your own business in this industry, and genuinely good people who want to make things look beautiful and work for couples. So I think, like, that's kind of we're lucky because it's kind of like a baseline, uh,
Yeah.
in our industry, and I'll tell you, I can't say for sure I would start a remote company again. It was a outcome of having started in January 2020 and scaling the team during COVID. Like, that really is why I started hiring people in other places because everyone was working from home. There wasn't a vaccine yet. No one knew what was going on. And I still had to build this company. So, knowing what I know now about how hard it is to build culture remotely and the administrative costs that come along with hiring in multiple states, I honestly can't say I would do it again.
Well,
But because we did, I will say, like, a thing that has made a huge difference is getting the entire team together in person.
yeah.
And it's expensive. We don't do it more than we do it once a year, the whole team. But we had our second annual all team meeting in December, and just in, like, 48 hours together, the amount of bonding and emotion and feeling and connection that came out of that time was so impactful. If we could do it more than once a year, it'd be awesome, but I think that's been, like, a real game changer for us. And then
Well, yeah.
meeting in pods regionally as much as we can.
Yeah. Well, because and I was gonna say, the fact in one way, as great as it would be, the fact that you do only do it once makes it so much more special, and
Yeah.
once people experience that, they completely show up. I have to ask, so, oh my god, starting in January of 2020, what kept you going? I mean, that is a rough time. Was it just that, "Okay, I've put my foot in the ground. We're doing this. I put a stake in the ground,
Yeah.
and I've got all these people and their families counting on me." Like, that had to have been exhausting.
We didn't the second part I didn't actually have yet. Like, I had 1 employee. It was me and
Oh,
one
okay.
other gal, and, like, 1 contract engineer. So, yeah, I remember, like, this was might have been March or April, and I had raised a small amount of angel and friends and family money, probably, like, 200,000 or $250,000 going into it. So, we had a little bit of money in the bank. We didn't have really any expenses. We didn't have rent. Didn't have payroll, I wasn't paying myself, and I was paying someone part-time, so, like, it would've been easy to just give the money back and said, like, "This is crazy," and I remember calling one of my first actually, he, is a Stanford, GSP professor,
Oh,
uh,
cool.
Steve Sinzinski. I called him, and I remember I broke down crying because I was just so overwhelmed and didn't know what to do, and he was like, "Cam, you don't have to do this, like, you don't have to do this. It's really okay, like, everyone would understand." And I remember thinking, like, "That didn't even cross my mind. Like, of course I'm gonna do this, like, I'm not gonna quit." Because I think I had spent, at that point, 5 years working toward this possible.
Yeah. You've so committed. You're in now.
I mean, I went to work at Urban Stems. I could have done something else, but I knew that going into it, I wanted to start my own business on the other side, and I had just gone through my very first fundraise. It was so hard, it was so draining. We
Definitely.
finally had an opportunity to, like, build this thing that was in my mind, and I don't know, I'm just, like, very driven. I have my little picture back here, but I played D1 soccer, that was me.
Oh, fabulous. Look at you go.
And then this is my grandfather and then his brother, they played at, SMU and West Point.
Oh, that's so cool.
And I think, like, just having that experience of being an athlete for so long, I'm just very just driven, I don't
You
know.
don't wanna give up.
I was like, "I'm not gonna give up now." But it was and I didn't have kids yet, so it's like, what else am I gonna do, you know?
Right, right,
Um,
right.
it was hard. I think it also caused me to make decisions that about how to grow the business that I might not have made otherwise, but, that's what happened. It was COVID. It was a black swan of it.
Well, and you also I don't know, there's also, I think, something where then that might force you to pivot. Has there been a pivot that
Oh,
you've had
yeah.
to make? Okay, sure, a little bit. I'm like, was it hard to decide or was like, "Okay, feet to the fire, I'm totally doing it?"
It was actually kind of easy because
It was
we
a
hadn't
no-brainer.
made a big investment in building the business yet. Like, we hadn't made a big tech investment. I mean, small ones, but I remember April 2020, no, this was like March, as everything was going down, and then PPP became a thing, and I was in founder groups, and everyone was trying to figure this out. And we were spending a couple days trying to figure out PPP, whatever. And I thought, "This is a waste of time. Let's just make our money. Let's just make money differently than we thought we were going to."
Right,
And I spent the last 4 years selling flowers online, so I knew how to do that.
right.
So we pivoted in April 2020 to selling at-home flower arranging kits that we called Poppy at Home, and we did that in until May 2022.
Oh,
And in 2021, it was neck and neck with our wedding business. But, eventually I knew that we would wind it down and refocus. I think what COVID did was, like, it definitely tested resilience. It got me to be creative, but it also feel like we lost a couple years in building the thing that I had set out to build because weddings just didn't happen for like a year and a half.
right.
Um, so I don't know. In some ways, yeah, it was good that we pivoted because we kept everything kind of warm and moving, but I felt like we lost some time in building the thing that I had set out to build.
Well, that's the thing I think that happens sometimes, and I'm not saying this is you, but sometimes I think people they either have such a vision of an idea and or they are just freaking stubborn. And it's like, "No, I swear it's gonna work this way," until literally you realize, "Okay, it's not gonna work this way. I
Yeah.
I gotta do otherwise." So you mentioned investment.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that. How has it been hard? I mean, it's hard for women anyway. I mean, if you're doing like a hardcore tech business, I mean, I would imagine for this, were people take you seriously? I mean, on the one hand, I could see them going, I'm not being dismissive of the business. It's
Yeah.
obviously amazing. But I can imagine how some with smaller minds and narrow minds would say, oh, yeah, it's a nice little flower business. Yeah, I'm not going to put any money in that. There's no money. There's no money in flowers unless they've had, then on the other hand, someone who's had personal experience realize that is such an untapped market.
Yeah.
There's huge money in that. What has the experience been?
I think that I came into this with a really good understanding of the venture ecosystem,
Yeah.
like, pretty good, because I had been at a venture-backed startup. My best friend worked at the National Venture Capital Association. I
Yep.
understood kind of how it all worked. And, in terms of founder market fit, like, you couldn't ask for a better founder market fit than me in this business because of my experience in the floral industry. So I think I had those 2 things going for me. That said, the math of, like, the potential exit for Poppy and the timeline just doesn't pencil out for a fund that, needs to deploy $1 billion or whatever. So I did spend a lot of time talking to funds that were too big or had seen or invested in urban stems, the Books, Bloom that, which was like one of the early ones, H Bloom. There were like a crop of well-funded venture-backed startups that focus on floral gifting
Right.
that hadn't been a hit yet. And so I think if you were a fund that saw one of those deals and you passed, you just look at this business and you're like, "I whatever, and I don't do flowers," you know?
Right. It
Um,
hasn't panned out yet.
yeah, and so I think I knew that the business model was different, but it has taken time, I think, venture, it's a
Venture's venture.
they go in they kind of follow each other. So I
I was
think
gonna
that
say cohorts in class and they follow
yeah,
wherever the other one does. It's kind of well, this is gonna be I don't mean to sound derogatory. Sometimes it kind of reminds me of a really young group of kids playing soccer. And there's the one
yeah,
that goes there and everybody goes to that
they're
ball,
like,
and
"Go
then the other kid
that."
goes right? That's what
Yeah.
I imagine. It's like, I don't wanna miss, I don't wanna miss, I don't wanna you know what I mean?
Yeah, and so, like, I think if I had been a mercenary for fundraising or, like, I just want this to be something that VCs can understand and invest in, I definitely would not have picked flowers at the end of, like, a 10-year venture cycle that was, like, exploring this category and deeming it
Right.
to be unworthy. And I definitely wouldn't have picked weddings because weddings, I think, are notoriously difficult for VCs to invest in. And so I kind of think the fact that I've raised as much as I have is like a bit of a miracle. And I think this business needs to exist. Like I have such high conviction in the opportunity because I've lived it for so long.
Yeah.
And when I hear floral designers, whether they're excited we're doing this or they're like kind of begrudging,
Yeah.
they all like so many of them are like, "Yep, this is right. Like this is needed." And so people really understand the industry, get it. And it's a big enough industry that the right size fund can underwrite a rational outcome. So the funds that have made sense for Poppy are Idea Fund Partners, they're based in Durham, North Carolina. They have invested in a couple funds, but they're not raising, $500 million, billion-dollar funds. They can underwrite an exit that is, like, rational for this business that
Right.
could return their fund. Michigan Capital Network led our Series A, similarly sized, and again, they're underwriting an exit that is actually possible for Poppy that works for their fund economics. So I have found that, high conviction, independent thinking, and more regionally focused, venture funds have been a good fit for this business. And now it's so interesting because since I started fundraising in 2019 to now, the venture industry has done like a complete turnover. In Q1 2022, deals dried up and the whole industry had a reckoning. And I think we have enough time since then where I'm now seeing funds that are looking for businesses like ours. Like I'm getting inbound from funds that are, 225 million more that are looking for niche tech enabled services businesses like ours. And
Interesting.
so I think that the venture industry has also, to some extent, had an opportunity to self reflect and tweak the types of businesses. Of course, AI is its own thing. But I think they've the last 5 years has been a bit of a reckoning and new models are emerging that still rely on LPs and institutional capital, but are looking for not unicorns, but like
Right.
thoroughbreds,
Steady Eddie.
workhorses. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. That are gonna be, much more potentially reliable,
Yeah.
and which is great because it's more sustainable, long run, for
For
everybody.
everyone.
For
For everyone.
everybody. It's
Yeah.
kinda just healthier
It's like less
than.
like gambling and more like investing.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
love that. Okay. So, in closing, my friend, knowing what you know now, what advice would you give your younger self?
How much younger?
Yeah. However you want. Let's do your Division 1 soccer gal, and then let's do you in 2014, the year before you said, "Okay, I'm jumping into the pool and I'm doing this."
Gosh, I think when I was 20, 21, I was in college, I didn't know what my options were, and entrepreneurship I graduated in 2007. Now Davidson, where I went to school, has an entrepreneurship hub,
Yeah,
but
see?
no one was talking about startups or entrepreneurship when I was graduating college. So, I think I would tell myself that you have more options than becoming a lawyer or like
Thank God.
I thought my options were like lawyer, journalist, or poet. Those were the 3 things I was really thinking I would do.
Lovely.
And I think I would have just encouraged myself to explore and probably talk to more people, like a broader range of people. But I think I did a pretty good job of exploring in my early 20s and learning. So I'm proud of myself for that. And then I think in 2014, there were moments where I just thought, like, it's so funny, actually, I interviewed for a job with a woman who went on to be, I think, the chief of staff or chief communications officer for Harry and Meghan,
Oh,
and
wow.
she was working for, Melinda Gates for her new venture firm,
Ah, yep.
and so I was interviewing for that job, I was, like, a final 3 candidate, went to New York, met with her, and I remember thinking, "I just really wanna work at Urban Stems." Like, this is what I feel called to, even though this feels like a more prestigious or sure thing. And I remember telling her in the interview, like, I was like, "I'm here because it's Melinda Gates, but, like, I have this other thing I'm probably gonna do," which I probably shouldn't have done, But, like and it's funny, before I started Poppy, I had a very similar experience where it was like a communications role for a venture firm, and it would have paid me so much money and, like, it would have been great. But I just remember thinking, like, "I just feel so called to do this other thing." And I think what the advice I would have given myself in 2014 is to trust your instinct, and that, you may think that money is, like, the primary motivator, but actually being totally utilized and, like, fulfilled in your work is
Fulfilled
more.
and consumed.
Yeah, fulfilled and consumed. That's actually the thing you care about the most, and you will be fine. Like, the universe will provide for you.
Yep.
You'll be okay. Like, people say, "Follow your passion, the money will come." That's not always true, but I think I was, I would have told myself, like, "You're gonna be happy if you choose this path, so just do it."
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And the truth I think sometimes too that happens is, if you don't do it, how are you gonna feel? Like, will you
Totally.
20 years later, this weird gnawing thing, and you just like,
Yeah.
it still is really bad. So you're either gonna do it early and go to town Charlie Brown like you have, or you're gonna do it 40 years later as you're sunsetting, but it'll come back. I mean, I swear to you, it really does. It happens like that. It just does if it's really something that I think you are intended to do.
I thought about that. I was like, it's so, easy and can feel comforting at the time to hide your light and just follow this path that seems like the right one, and people will question you when
Oh,
you're making different decisions, and, like, you'll question yourself, because like, you're not hitting the same milestones as your friends on the same timeline, and making those comparisons over the last 10 years has felt hard sometimes, but
oh,
we caught up, and
you do.
now I'm like, I'm not having a midlife crisis because I'm fulfilled and consumed, and I think, yeah, like, gosh, I can't imagine the regret that I would have if I
Hadn't done it.
hadn't done it. Like, I just and there's you can't go back and change that.
And the truth is that when you're feeling that way, the mothership literally is that fulfilled. One, you're in flow, but two, what a great, such a fabulous role model for your little ones. And when you are happy, I swear to God, everyone who's listening, you know this is true. Everything else around you is. Like when the family crew, you're
Yeah,
good. I mean, it's just such you're the hub, right? And the
yeah.
glue. And it just everything feels just better.
It's
And
hard, though. Did I want to clear, like, the amount of stress and, like,
oh yeah.
uncertainty and risk that you have to get comfortable with this is most people will never understand it, but
Until you're in it.
is I still think it's worth it to feel like long term, like you're in an aligned life path, you know?
It is absolutely true because when you're not, man, you know it. And
Yeah,
that feels I can tell you that feels grosser. And to your point about listening to you and doing it, more often than not, when you are and you're just kind of motoring along, singing your song, doing what you're meant to do, there
yeah,
will be so many people who may have comments, say you're crazy, say la 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 la.
yeah,
Maybe for them, great, but for me, this is what works.
yeah,
And I found often it's because, man, they wish they had done the same, or they really want to do the same, or they really don't know how to do it. And then, mark my words, a year, 2 years, 3 years, seven, they will come to you and say, how did you do that?
yeah,
Because I think I kind of want to do this.
yeah,
Does this make sense? Is this an idea? So stay your path. Your path is just that. It's your path.
yeah, it's I feel like the older I've gotten, the more I've come to accept, like, if you
Yep.
keep just putting one foot in front of the other and doing the right thing and acting with integrity and staying aligned, then the world is kind of shapes itself around what you're doing
It
and helps
does, and
you.
also too, and this will be just my last thought on this is when you do that, that's the culture that you have. Think of all of the your entire ecosystem, be it your employees, the vendors, your business partners, your investors, obviously your customers, your family. All of that is so much happier and healthier.
Yeah.
So that's a really good, and if we could have companies that were able to acknowledge and take the responsibility of having that impact like you
Yeah.
do, that'd be really great across all industries.
'Cause it ripples out, your employees and how they feel and how their families feel and how they show up in the world, it all matters. And, yeah, it starts from, I think, just being aligned and, like,
Yeah.
making
And
your inner and outer world match.
and in this day and age, all the multiple generations, but also across geographies, that kind of thing is also what helps shift generational experience moving forward for that broad-based,
Yep.
right? Because not everyone's had the same opportunities. Now all of a sudden they do, and poof, lo and behold, look what they do with them. So, oh my gosh, Cam, thank you so, so
Okay,
much.
this was so fun.
I'm so excited. Everyone, we're gonna be including links. Go check it out. Amazing, amazing, beautiful offerings. And, God, I'm just so glad you said yes and that you keep saying yes and you keep taking, those one step in foot of the other. I can't wait to see what happens with Poppy next.
Thanks for your support.
All right. Well, big love, and until our paths cross again.
Awesome. Thanks,
Awesome.
Kate.
You're welcome. Hey, everyone. I just love Cameron's story, and she's done such, it's been fun to watch her just grow and literally blossom like a flower. How appropriate. So, some key KB takeaways to me are: 1, she figured out and found her sweet spot, and that can be from a market standpoint. It can be from, what your special, unique USP is, unique selling proposition is. But once you've figured that out and focus on that, don't stray from it, you'll go incredibly far and have great growth. Second, dig into some of that nitty-gritty operational stuff, because that, I swear to you, is, yes, of course, efficient, time saver, but it's huge money saver, and it improves the customer and employee experience immensely. I would say figure out from funding. So everybody thinks they want to go and work with certain size funds, but you're not ready for it yet, or it's just not a match. So take a step back, do your homework, figure out what's really going to be a more likely yes, because that's going to result in a greater win moving forward. And then it makes it, frankly, like less like gambling and more like seriously investing. And go for smart capital, not just money. That's for sure. And then remember, you've got more options than you know. So if something doesn't feel right, don't be desperate. Hold off, because I guarantee you, by not jumping at that option, there's an amazing one right around the corner from it. It just is the way the universe works. Sorry, not to be juju, but I got him. 4th-generation Californian. What can I say? So with that, thank you so much for joining Cameron and me in this conversation, and I look forward to the next one. Until then, take care. Stay warm. Thanks for listening. May this episode inspire you to move forward. Be sure to go to iTunes, Spotify, katebyrne.co, that's KATEBYRNE.co, or wherever you listen to your podcasts, and listen to even more episodes. Here's to strong women. May we know them, may we be them, may we raise them. And be sure to meet them on the next Women Advancing. Till next time.